Good morning, everybody. Today I am going to actually make a recipe based off of some of the suggestions that I got from you guys when you watched my 5 strangest things in my kitchen video. I'll link it up here if you haven't seen it. Basically what I did was I had gone through my pantry and done an inventory, and there were a few odd things that I didn't quite know what to do with in my pantry, and I thought I would put it out there and let you guys make some suggestions, and based off of those suggestions I'm going to use up the things that I have in my pantry. So today we're going to use 3 of those strange items. We're going to use prunes, teff flour, and chai tea. So I actually had thought about doing muffins, and based on your suggestions I went ahead and combed Pinterest, and I found a way to use all of those together in one recipe, and I'm making a chai pumpkin loaf. So obviously the chai is going to go in the loaf, and for the teff flour I'm going to use a portion of the regular flour that's called for in the recipe as teff flour, because apparently you guys mentioned to me that you can use in any recipe 20% of regular flour as teff flour. So that's what I'm going to do. And then for the prunes, I could have just chopped them up and put them in there like raisins, but I actually think what I'm going to do is attempt to use it as a substitute for oil. So I actually found a recipe that said that you can take some prunes and add it with water, a little vanilla, and mix it together and use it as a substitute for oil. So I'm going to do that, and hopefully if it's distributed through the whole loaf it won't be too fibrous and cause any issues. I'm going to use a little amount. But anyway, so that is what we're going to do today. So let me show you the ingredients and then I'll show you how I make it. Okay, so here are all of the ingredients. And by the way, you need to have a oiled loaf pan. I'm using my Pampered Chef pan. Then you need a half a teaspoon salt, half a cup of brown sugar, half a cup of shelled walnuts, 2 bags of chai tea. I'm using Lipton, but whatever you can find. 3 ounces of dried plums, plus a half a cup of water. A half a cup of granulated sugar, a 1/4 cup teff flour, 1 1/4 cup flour, 1 canned pumpkin, 1 teaspoon baking soda and 2 teaspoons baking powder, a 1/4 teaspoon ginger, 2 teaspoons vanilla, 1/2 teaspoon nutmeg, 1/2 teaspoon ground cinnamon, and I almost forgot 2 eggs. Okay, so the first thing that we want to do is mix together all of the dry ingredients. So I'm going to need to go ahead and take the chai tea, in addition to the spices, the ginger, the cinnamon, and the nutmeg, I'm putting them in a coffee grinder, which is also like a spice grinder, because I'm going to make it down to like a powder. And I'm going to add that with the flour, and so all of the dry ingredients except the sugar, both sugars we're going to put aside, and so we'll mix all of the dry ingredients except for the sugar together, and then after that we're going to mix all of the wet ingredients with the sugars, and then we'll put them all together. So let's do the dry ingredients first. So here's my coffee grinder. If you want, I'll have a link in the description box for one that's similar. And you want to go ahead and tear open your 2 tea bags and just put those in the coffee grinder. And then you'll add your other spices. It's my ginger, cinnamon, and nutmeg. And that's what they all look like. So pretty. And then we put the lid on. And I'm just going to start pressing the button to grind it. And just start and stop it. And then we'll just lift the lid to see if it's the consistency we want. You got to let the smoke clear a little bit. And I went ahead and started it again, and this time I shook it up a little just to make sure I got everything. And it looked good. Okay, so we're going to do the dry ingredients, and the first thing I need to do is the math to figure out how much teff flour I can use. So the recipe calls for 1.5 cups of flour altogether. So it's easier for me to think about it in terms of ounces. So 1 cup is 8 ounces. So a cup and a half would be 12 ounces because it's 8 plus 4, which is half of 8. So that's 12 ounces. 20%, you're going to divide it by 5 or multiply it by 0.2. Either way, you're going to get 2.4 ounces. So if you have a cup, and a cup is 8 ounces, 2 ounces is about a quarter of a cup. So it's going to be a little bit over a quarter of a cup. I'm not going to like actually measure it out with official ounces. I'm just going to try to get it a roundabout amount. So I'm going to do, out of that 1.5 cups flour, I'm going to do a quarter of a cup teff and 1.25 cup regular all-purpose flour. So that's how I'm doing the math. I hope you followed me. Hope my math is right. But that's what we're doing. So we're going to do that, and we're going to add all of the other, like I said, dry ingredients, and then we'll work on our wet ingredients. Okay, so now we get to the part of the recipe that I'm nervous about the most. It's making the prunes into something that's going to replace oil. Now, you guys know I was vegan for a while, and I know that there are a lot of fibrous things that you can use to replace oil in recipes, but I've never actually used prunes. I've used pumpkin, I've used applesauce, never prunes. So this is kind of an experiment, but we're going to go with it. So the recipe I found says 6 ounces of prunes to 1 cup of water to 2 teaspoons of vanilla. Now we only need in this recipe a half a cup of oil, so I definitely don't need that much. And I don't have anything that I can weigh out, so many ounces of prunes. So what I've decided to do is to cut this recipe in half, and instead I'm going to do 3 ounces of prunes, half a cup of water, and 1 teaspoon of vanilla. And let me show you the bag of prunes, and I'm going to show you how I figure out approximately 3 ounces. So here's my bag, and you can see the bag says that it's 16 ounces. So if I cut it in half, just approximately, right, with my hand, that is going to be about 8 ounces. Well, if I cut that in half, that section right here is going to be about 4 ounces. Well, I need 3 ounces, so I'm going to do a little bit less. So I'm just going to pull out this tiny little corner right here, and that's going to be the amount of prunes that I use. And I'm going to go put that in my food processor with the water and the vanilla and process it out, and that will be our oil substitute. Okay, so I opened up the bag of dried plums, and I got everything out. And I ended up with like 7 plums. So I tossed them in the food processor with a half a cup of water. And then I added about a teaspoon of vanilla just for flavor. And then we just process it until it's the consistency you want. Well, this is what it looks like after it's processed down or pureed down. And it smells kind of like vanilla, to be honest with you. So it doesn't really smell like anything, in case you're curious. But it is the liquid, so we're going to put this in our liquids first, and then we're going to add all of the other wet ingredients, so our vanilla, our pumpkin, and the eggs, along with the sugar, and we'll mix that up. And by the way, if you're paying attention here, I'm actually going to put the wet ingredients in my KitchenAid mixer bowl, because once we get all the wet ingredients in here, we're going to add the dry ingredients on top. So let's get the wet ingredients taken care of, and then we'll mix it together. So I just want to say here, don't over stir your batter. You want it just to where it's incorporated. And then I went ahead and cut my walnuts by hand. You can use the food processor, but I just like chopping them. And they look so beautiful. Don't judge my burned cutting board. And then we just stir the walnuts in. Pour everything into your already greased pan. Looks great. 350 degrees for 1 hour. Here we go. All finished. You want to leave it in the pan for about 10 minutes to cool. And then after that, you're going to want to transfer it to a wire rack and let it cool completely before you put any kind of frosting on it. And made a vanilla glaze now that the pumpkin chai loaf has cooled. And basically I just took 1 cup of powdered sugar and 3 tablespoons of heavy whipping cream, and I just kept dumping in like a little bit of extra cream until it was the right consistency. And I also added just like a touch of vanilla extract. And so once I whisked it together, I put it in a little Ziploc baggie, and I'm going to cut a corner and I'm going to drizzle it on the loaf. And I'm gonna, hopefully it works out. If it doesn't look pretty, then I'm just gonna smear it with a knife and call it a day. And hopefully it looks pretty, and then I will just use it like that, all drizzled. So here's hoping it works. Here it is, my beautiful pumpkin chai loaf. I'm so excited. We're gonna take some pictures of it, and then we're going to take a bite. And I probably need to clean up that extra icing, but look, it's so pretty. All right, here is my slice, and it looks really, really good. I have pictures on the thumbnail. I'll make sure you see it. I'm gonna take my first bite and let you know what I think. I'm pretty sure it's gonna be good though. Perfect. Absolutely perfect. It tastes like a really spicy pumpkin loaf, and you definitely don't taste any of the prunes. And I can't tell a difference with the teff flour either. And I'm trying to remember, oh, it was the chai, so the chai is the spice. So this is delicious. I would totally I'd make this recipe again, for sure. So give it a try if you have these ingredients at your house. It's actually really moist. It's really spongy in the best way. So give it a try. I mean, I'm sure I would totally take this to a church event, and I bet nobody would even know. But that's it. That is our video for the day. So if you like me trying those strange ingredients and trying recipes, let me know in the comments, and I'll see if maybe I can't make a few more of these and just do some experiments, because maybe you have something else in your pantry that you don't know how to work with, and like I said, I know how to work with, and we could do recipes together, so that would be a lot of fun. Plus, I kind of like trying new things. So anyway, this has been really good. Give this recipe a try, especially the fall's coming up. This would be perfect for the fall, for Thanksgiving. I'm telling you, I would totally take this anywhere, and people would be like, this is amazing, where'd you get the recipe? Well, here you go. So, anyway, you guys have a great afternoon, and that's it. We'll see you next time.